Thank you for joining us for the Aviation Workforce Development Grant Programs webinar. I'd like to note that everything we cover in this presentation is also included in the Notice of Funding Opportunity, or NOFO, for each program. This presentation is simply a summary of the information contained in those notices, and we will post a direct link to the grant program pages, but the notices and the submission portal are both located at www.grants.gov. Today, I'd like to cover what the grant programs are, how they were created, the specifics of each of the programs, the maintenance program and the pilot program, and how to submit your applications. As a reminder, the applications are due March 22nd, no later than 11:59 p.m. So the programs are two competitive individual grant programs. One provides funding for projects aimed at developing the aircraft pilots workforce. The other provides funding for projects intended to develop the workforce for aircraft maintenance technicians. Secretary Buttigieg is expected to make selections based on participation from a diverse collection of public and private schools in rural, urban, and suburban areas. There are certain funding restrictions that I want to mention right off the bat. Not more than 10% of the award can be used for administrative costs. The funding cannot be used for building construction or for research activities. These funds are primarily aimed at deploying and making sure that students are on the receiving end of the curriculum and the recruitment activities. Finally, costs associated with the application preparation are not reimbursable. The programs were created by a section of the FAA Reauthorization Act of 2018. Due to NATA's advocacy, they subsequently received funding by congressional appropriations. NATA led a number of industry coalitions advocating on Capitol Hill that the programs receive funding, and there is a total of $10 million available for the grants. The FAA did request public comment in September of 2020, and NATA at that time submitted comment with regard to how we believe the agency should administer the programs. So let's talk first about the maintenance program. It is important to note that a project should and can be able to support more than one of the eligible activities or projects. The goal of the maintenance program, again, is to support the education and recruitment of aviation maintenance technical workers and the development of the aviation maintenance workforce. There are a number of eligible projects that you can see here listed on the screen. And these are also, of course, outlined in the NOFO, or the Notice of Funding Opportunity, that you can access on the grants.gov website. But just a few highlights. The maintenance program has very wide eligibilities. You can use the funds to establish new programs, purchase equipment, or improve existing programs. You can use the money for scholarships or apprenticeships for aviation maintenance students. You can do outreach and recruitment activities, especially in underrepresented communities in the industry. And the Secretary will likely look favorably on applications that support activities in economically disadvantaged geographic areas. I also want to mention, especially now, as our country is facing a challenging time for the workforce, that the monies in this program can also be used to support career transition activities in aviation maintenance. So I would encourage our members to think very broadly about that, what that might look like. If you are in an area that has a number of displaced aviation workers that maybe don't have an airframe and power plant or an IA certification, but are interested in pursuing that, the money can be used for retraining and reskilling of the industry. So who is eligible to apply for the maintenance grant under the maintenance program? Anyone that holds a Part 121 or 135 air carrier certificate, or a Part 21 or 145 certificate as well, or a labor association that represents aviation maintenance workers. Second, accredited institutions of higher education are also eligible to apply, as are state and local government entities. And just based on past experience, I'd like to note to those of you who are watching that the Department of Transportation will also likely look favorably on applications that come from a consortium of these eligible entities. Anytime that you can partner with one or more of the eligible applicants, usually bolsters the submission chance for getting recognition and potentially getting funding. There are a number of measures here that the department plans to use to evaluate the applications and how the monies would be used to support recruitment, retention, program completion, and ultimately leading to, you know, a certification, whether that is an A&P or a repairman certificate or an IA, in the case of the maintenance program specifically. I'd like to turn now to the other program, the other side of the grant program, which is specifically and directly aimed at growing the workforce of aircraft pilots. This program is considerably more narrowly eligible, or the eligibilities are considerably more narrow than they are for the maintenance program. Specifically, the money must be used to target and recruit high school students to serve the anticipated future demands of the pilot workforce. Eligible projects, again, you'll notice that there are really only two eligible projects, and they are to either create or deliver curriculum for high schoolers or to support the professional development of teachers that are using that curriculum. There are a number of eligible entities for the grant. An air carrier or a labor association that represents air carrier pilots is eligible. Again, higher education institutions are eligible. Flight schools that are either Part 61 or Part 141 are eligible to receive a grant, as are state and local government entities, again, or a nonprofit association that represents aircraft users, aircraft owners, or aircraft pilots. The measures are very similar for the pilots program as they are for the maintenance program, but again, viewed through the lens of creating a pilot workforce. So this is some more information on the specifics of the program application. These are the first two steps that you must complete prior to submitting your application. You cannot submit an application without completing these two items first. The Office of Management and Budget requires that all applicants for federal funds include a DUNS number in their application. A DUNS number is a unique 9-digit number used to identify and track entities that receive federal funding. The identifier is used for tracking purposes and to validate the address and point of contact information for all federal assistance recipients, applicants, and sub-recipients as well. And that's very important. It's important to note that sub-recipients must also establish a DUNS number. So if you are submitting with other entities, you must include their DUNS number in your application as well. Next, I want to note that all applicants for federal financial assistance must maintain current registration in the System for Award Management, or SAM, database. An applicant must be registered in SAM to successfully register on grants.gov. Entities that have previously submitted an application via grants.gov are already registered with SAM. So if you have prior experience receiving grant funding from the federal government, the chances are high that you already have a SAM account. But please note that applicants must update or renew their SAM registration at least once per year to maintain an active status. Therefore, it's critical to check the registration status well in advance of relevant application deadlines. Let me reiterate, if you're proposing as a team, the application must clearly identify who the lead team member is, and you must include in your submission all of the organizations that are participating on the team, the name and title of the official representative from each of the team members, and the contact information, as well as their DUNS number. And finally, you must also designate a fiscal officer that will be responsible for auditing and controlling the use of the grant funding. The applicant must complete and submit all required application package forms, which are listed in Appendix 2 of the NOFO, again available at the website at grants.gov, and upload the application for federal assistance, which is known as Standard Form 424. The application package must include a narrative, the requirements of which are detailed specifically in the NOFO, and must also include required forms and attachments, again, a list of which are located as an appendix in the NOFO. Within Volume 1 of your application, the following elements must be included in this specific order. First, an abstract that succinctly describes how this specific request for funding would achieve the program goals. The applicant can and should use the project abstract summary form found at grants.gov to complete this section. Next, the applicant information and coordination with other entities. You should clearly identify who the primary applicant is, as I just mentioned. You should note any conflicts of interest if the primary applicant or a team member has with detailing the receipt of federal funds. Next, you should include a proposal narrative. This narrative should address the evaluation criteria set forth in the NOFO, specifically as it pertains to activities, objectives, benefits, and performance goals. And finally, you should detail a budget. You want to submit with the funding request a budget, which there is a detailed budget form, which is located on grants.gov. It happens to be Form 424A. And then you should also include a budget narrative, which has a 2-page limit wherein you must provide a justification of the proposed itemized expenditures. Before we leave this slide, I want to note that the federal government has style guidelines for application submission. Has to be in English, has to be in 12-point font, Times New Roman, double-spaced with a page number in the lower right-hand corner, and the entire application package must not exceed 25 pages. This is a complete list of all of the forms and attachments that must be submitted as Volume 2 of the application. This checklist is detailed in Appendix 2 of the NOFO. And once again, all of the forms are available at grants.gov/forms. Just for your awareness, the criteria against which applications will be measured and evaluation ratings are clearly outlined in Section E of the NOFO, and we encourage all interested parties to ensure that their narrative addresses each of the criteria listed here. FAA subject matter experts will evaluate applications, and then they rank the order of proposals based on the merit criteria before referring them to the Office of the Secretary and the FAA administrator to make a final decision as to who gets the grants. Here are some useful links. These links will take you directly to the grant notice for either the pilots program or the maintenance technician program. And we thank you for your attention. We are always available and here to answer your questions. We're certainly happy to do our best to address any technical concerns you have as you're composing your application. We're happy to support your applications as you consider sending them in. And please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.